Welcome, my beautiful friend. This is the Time to Care, the Caregivers Podcast. I'm Isabel Melgarejo, your host. I have a very interesting subject today, a topic with Gail Blair. She's a food and medical intuitive coach. She's been guiding people to find health and wellness since 2012. She helps them find the root cause of disease. Her journey started in 2010 while working as a food caterer and personal chef. I'm pretty sure you felt guilt when eating desserts or when eating chips or when eating any of the fun foods. I know you probably felt guilt because I think we all feel guilt sometimes when eating things that are not good. I know this is going to be the perfect conversation for all of us. Welcome, Gail.
Thank you, Isabel. I'm glad to be here.
Tell us how your journey started.
It started with food. What I realized, actually in the book that's coming up very shortly, I tell the bigger story, but our creative passion is directly connected to our purpose. When I started working that creative passion, which was food, working it meaning doing it for a living, I had an awakening, and it was a spiritual awakening. This is a very short story. With that awakening, what arrived is all these gifts. My intuitive gift was reignited. We all have it, but I also had these gifts of seeing and, mind's eye. I can see the body, for instance. I can see what's going on in the body. Hearing, so I'm a channel, and knowing and feeling. All these senses that exist outside of our physical senses came in. And the first thing that came in was this ability to hear the conversation between food and the body, which is speaking volumes. And so these food charts were downloaded to me. Literally, I woke up with them one morning. I didn't even know how to do columns in Word. And somehow that morning I did it. I still don't know how to do it. Anyway, I had these food charts. There's 3 pages. They haven't changed much, just a tiny bit over the years. That was in 2012. With these food charts, the body is literally telling me through compatibility what's going on with the body. We know what we're working on. So that was the very first thing, and that was working purely with the physical. And as time went on, what happened is I realized that people were starting to really want to work on the root, the energetic. They were ready for that. The people were coming to me to get to the root of their what I call dis-ease, D-I-S-E-A-S-E, which is just mind and body not at ease. And we're getting symptoms, and the symptoms are messages. They're messages. Your body is your friend. In the 6 Missing Link to Abundant and Sustainable Health, that's my next book coming out. What I realized, and I realized it was a process. If I had received the last 6 and 7, in the beginning, I would have discounted it because it didn't go along with what I already thought I knew about health and well-being. One of the things that came in was, we're not this body. Okay, that you would think that everybody would realize that, but we get attached to this body. And so the body is a vehicle, it's a messenger, it's a conduit, it's a responder, but it isn't the creator. It is responding to creation. All we want to do is receive the messages it's trying to tell us. Chronic dis-ease is a chronic knocking on the door of your awareness that you have not got the message. And it's not going to stop until you get the message. People find me when they're like, wow, I've done everything. I've followed every diet. I've eaten all the good stuff and nothing's changing. And that's when they find me. To go back to the energetic stuff, we're in what I call the age. I mean, people are waking up by leaps and bounds. They're waking up to their gifts. They're waking up to who they are, their spiritual truth, and they're ready to clear out all of the stuff that's opposing their good. And so that's what I do. I get to the very root of things. And then, like I said, the roadmap's revealed. It's a process. And if you work it, it actually works. Obviously, I can't decide for you if you're going to do it or not. But I know from my experience over the last 15 years, those people that work it, they find their freedom. Now, what is freedom? Freedom is freedom from the prison of your mind, this ego mind. And freedom is health and well-being. It's very hard to enjoy life if you don't have it. So people come to me very sick. I'm thinking of one right now. And I hold all these clients in prayer too, everyone. I also have a prayer partner that prays over my clients too.
How can people know when there is a disease in their bodies?
The knocks, they start lightly. Okay. But if you're not in tune with your body, and a lot of people aren't, they've just kind of disassociated. They're not even paying attention to what they eat. I mean, if you ask a kid where ketchup comes from, probably 8 out of 10 are not going to be able to tell you. We're disconnected from food. We're disconnected from our body. We're not hearing that conversation. The knocks will start lightly. You just have a symptom here and there. Maybe you're not totally aware that you're not digesting your food. You're feeling a little bloated and gassy. That might be the first little knock. And then it just gets louder and louder and louder and louder. And so when you finally get to a point to where I can't deal with this anymore, then you're getting ready to open the door. Then you're getting ready to really seek solutions. Then you may have already realized that your solution is really not out there. You have it. What I do is help people get that message. The next step with me is just moving into your natural way, right? So I'm not really doing anything I don't really have anything that other people, we all have our gifts, don't get me wrong. My gift is knowing what's going on with the body through that food chart. That's one of them. I can teach you how to do a food chart. I can teach you how to intuit your food chart. It's one of my workshops. That what I can't teach you is how this knowing that I have. So everybody's got a gift, but you have an intuitive gift. You were born with it. And so as you wake up to that, then you'll become more in tune to your body, to the messages that you're getting. Everything's a message. Your emotions are a messenger. Your body's a messenger. Your physical symptoms, your emotional symptoms, your mental, your thoughts, your life. Your life is a message. That's the title of the book that's coming out, the anthology. Life is a revelation. We're being revealed along the way.
Yeah, that's right. I know that you went through a caregiving journey, as all of us did. How did you connect your gift through your journey, and how did it help you personally?
I made a promise to my dad a long time ago that I would take care of him in my childhood home when the time came. Of course, it came suddenly, unexpectedly. He almost died. He had an uncontrolled bleed that was caused by drug interactions. You know, people need to really pay attention to what their parents are taking. And I tried to tell him many times because he was bruising so easily. You know, he trusts his doctor, and a lot of people do. But still, you have to listen to yourself. Your inner, you got to pay attention because doctors,
Yes,
may have your best intention at heart, but they still don't know your body as well as you do. Okay?
that is right.
That is right. So
You're the expert on yourself.
you're the expert on your body, right? So he, even though he knew he's having these issues, he was just still giving the doctor all the responsibility. So anyway, drug interactions, he was on several drugs that were thin as blood. Okay. So he had a bleed and he almost bled to death. And we ended up in the hospital together for a week. And I never made it back home. That was that, just like that. Two things my dad suffered from chronically. One was sinus infections and one was urinary tract infection. When I moved in, he's letting me take care of him. And he's open to the things that I'm telling him now and doing. A lot of things I didn't tell him. I just did it. Yes, because
That happens as a
he can be
caregiver.
stubborn. He can be really
Yeah, there
stubborn.
are things you never say. You just do it and
You just do
hope
it.
for the best.
Exactly. The sinus infections, I knew this intuitively. I already knew it. He'd gotten to a point to where he had taken so many antibiotics that the doctor told him that he's run out of options with antibiotics. Basically, he's destroyed his immune system and nothing's helping. But I already knew that the antibiotics were never going to help the sinus infection because it was fungal. Antibiotics only treat bacteria. They don't treat viruses. They don't treat funguses. When you take antibiotics for those things, you're actually suppressing your own immune system and you're giving more of a leg up to the fungus. Basically, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. But we started something that I knew that worked, and it did. He got over chronic sinus infection. It never came back. It was awesome. This pretty much the same treatment and a lot of his bladder infection was also fungal. We did natural treatments to get over the bladder infection. Some of it was bacterial, some of it was fungal. And so he stopped having chronic bladder infections. So over that 3-year period, he might have had 3 bladder infections where He had constant ones. It was continuous. Basically, my dad came off all prescription drugs, and he had to. Literally, they took him off of them when he was in the hospital. He came off of blood pressure medicine. He was on 2. One of the reasons he wasn't driving anymore is not because he couldn't my dad, his head was all there, but because he would find himself getting dizzy and woozy. And this was the blood pressure medicine. His blood pressure would go too low. And so when he was in the hospital and he lost most of his blood, well, of course, they had to take him off of all of that. And he never went back on it. And his blood pressure was perfect all the time. So the blood pressure medicine was kind of jacking with him. We have to listen to the body. A lot of people go on these medicines. Let's say you go to the doctor and your blood pressure is high. Well, there's such a thing as white coat syndrome. Anytime your blood pressure is responding to stress, 99% of the time, and you can control your blood pressure just by breathing. You can take a few deep breaths and you take your blood pressure again, and you'll see that it went down. Just because your blood pressure is high momentarily under stress doesn't necessarily mean you need blood pressure medicine. Now, some people do. I'm not saying some people don't. I'm just saying find out for sure if this is what you really need. When my dad was under a lot of stress, he might have needed that because he did. He lived under a lot of stress for a long time. Anyway, bottom line is he came off of everything. My dad got healthy in that 3 years, as healthy as he could be at 90-something years old. We danced again. This was something that we've done our whole life. I went dancing with my dad when I was 16. I got to tell you this story, and hopefully I won't cry. But when I moved in, I was making room in the hall closet for some of my stuff, and I found the old dress that I had danced with my dad in when I was 16. And he kept it all these years, and it was my mother's, and it's still very relevant. And I recently got to wear it again. I took it and I needed to adjust it just a little bit through here, but it still fit me. And pretty much that was really something. And so our goal, we danced all the time. Even before I moved in with my dad, I was going over there a couple of nights a week and spending the night, and I would cook for him, and we would dance, and we would sit outside and look for the owls. And this is something we did all the time. So our goal was, the doctors told him he would not recover from that bleed at his age. And that's all they needed to tell my dad for him to go, well, you just watch me. So I have a video of us dancing for the very first time after, he passed all the PT, he passed all the OT. And at that point, I asked him, Daddy, you're back to square one. Do you want me to stay? Or do you want me, and we can go back to doing what we were doing? Or, we can just go back to the couple of nights a week or whatever. And he said, I want you to stay. So he didn't want to be alone again after that big scare. So we had a pretty good, I'm going to say, I'm getting a number. I see numbers. We had 17 months of pretty good times. And then he started going downhill, but it wasn't from chronic disease. It was, he told me on his 92nd birthday, he wasn't going to be around for his 93rd. I'm like, I don't know why, Daddy, you're doing well. He said, I'm just not going to be here. I'm done. It's time. I'm like, okay, well, it was. And so he started going down, I'm going to say about May of 2024, meaning he was losing weight. We couldn't keep weight on him. He was still eating very, very well, but he was still losing weight. And what the doctor told me was that when they're ready, then they either stop eating or they don't absorb what they're eating. And that's what was happening. He was still eating just as good as ever, but he wasn't hanging on to it. So he just started wasting away, a little at a time. And then actually on my birthday is when he went. And in my mind, I'm like, Daddy, don't die on my birthday. And he stuck around 5 more days. But it was sudden. It wasn't like, he was moving around and still getting up and down and going to his doctor's appointments and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, he was all the way down. It was just like that. So anyway, the good news is he didn't have to die from all this chronic disease stuff. He was able to enjoy his life until he got ready to go. We can all do that.
Yeah. I don't know when in history we forgot to pay attention to ourselves.
Yes. And our body. Yeah.
Well, that is part of ourselves. We stop paying attention to
Well,
what
when
is
I say
happening.
self, I mean our mind. What are we thinking? That's when you say pay attention to self. I'm thinking we're not paying attention to what we're thinking. We're not paying attention to what we're feeling. We're not paying attention to what we're eating. We're
We
not
don't pay
paying
attention.
attention
Yeah.
to how it feels, right? I mean, so we're disconnected, you know?
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
don't pay attention to signals in our bbodies. We don't pay attention to, like, if you get a headache, if we just, you
Yeah,
notice
why?
the
Why do I have a
headache.
headache? And you messenger, and I say this
Hmm.
in the book. What Western medicine does, and don't get me wrong, there's a place for it, but it's not it's not to be responsible for our health. It's not that. Okay. But what it's really good at is shooting the messenger. Pain is a
Yes.
message, right? If you don't get it, you're going to keep getting louder and louder, more painful messages. And pain's not our purpose. It's not. Some people think it is, but it isn't. It's a message. It serves purpose. It's not our purpose.
Yeah. And we just keep pushing that aside. We notice there's a discomfort. We notice the headache. We notice the cramping, the whatever it is. And
Hmm.
then we just take a medication over the counter or not. And we keep going with our lives instead of
Right.
actually paying attention to, hey, why is this happening? Why am I feeling this way? How do you go from there? How do you start paying attention to yourself, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what your body is telling you?
Well, first step is a want to. Okay. People are not going to heal until they're willing. And it's not necessarily a conscious thing either. There's a lot of unconscious stuff that happens, and that has to come up. It has to come to the surface. So basically, our life is on purpose. The reason I say it this way, there's nothing for nothing. There's a good reason for everything. And you are going to wake up on time. And so when people get sick and tired of being sick and tired, they're opening the door. And in my dad, that old saying, you can't teach old dogs new tricks. My dad came through this process. He came to realize how much his mind was affecting his health. He came to realize that he was constantly praying for what he didn't want, which is what I call worry. You're praying for what you don't want, and you're afraid you're going to get it. And that affects the body. Jesus is one of my guides, best friends. And I asked him one day to give me a way of telling people how powerful their mind is when it comes to their health in a way that they would get it. And what he said was, ask yourself if what you're thinking is good for your health. How will you know? You will know by how your body responds. Did you stop breathing? Did you hold your breath? You're cutting off oxygen to your body. Your arteries are constricting. Is your gut knotting up? Do you have diarrhea? Do you have constipation? You're blocking. You're stopping everything up if you have constipation. So if you have digestive issues, nothing's working right. You can't assimilate your food. If you stop breathing, you've literally cut yourself off from your spirit. Your spirit's your breath. I mean, you're not alive anymore when that breath leaves. Every time you stop breathing, you've disconnected yourself from your life preserver, your spirit. And so
Hmm.
just think about it that way, and then you'll start making the connection. Is what I'm thinking good for my health? And one of the main things it does, and this is, in the book, the way the body responds to all I call this acidic thinking is your body makes acid. And that's what inflammation is. So just imagine if you put acid on your skin, what's going to happen? It's going to burn. When you're in acidic mode, your body's on fire, literally. So you're in decay mode. And time doesn't stand still. So you're either in decay mode, you're in a detox mode, you're in healing mode, or you're in thriving mode. And what you think has more to do with it than anything you eat. As a matter of fact, if your head is not in alignment with health and well-being, you're never going to have it. And this explains why my grandmother, I'm going to use her as a great example. She lived to be in her mid-90s, and she was healthy her entire life. She was never in the hospital sick, not one time in her entire life. And I knew how she ate because I lived with her for a little bit when I moved back from California. And she ate bacon and eggs and homemade biscuits or toast every morning from the time that she could chew, literally. And she ate ice cream every night before bed when I was living with her, and she never gained a pound. My grandmother was a really happy person. She was very social. She owned her own beauty shop, and she was just a very happy person. She didn't start going downhill until she retired, and she moved away from all that social activity and reason for being, basically. That's when she started going downhill.
That happens
Obviously,
with a lot of people.
it does. You stay active.
And I find this very interesting. And I'm glad you mentioned this because lately, a lot of my friends have been going through very challenging times in their lives. And I've noticed that what they have been doing is cutting the fun in their lives, the activities that bring them joy,
Yeah.
instead of cutting the work that is making them worry. And no, instead of cutting the root of their worries, they're cutting the fun things so they can
The
have more
things
time.
that
And my
yes.
question is like, well, maybe this particular activity doesn't bring you joy anymore. I
Right.
completely get that. We
Yeah.
all go through, I love crocheting, but I no longer enjoy it anymore. Now I prefer painting or whatever it is. I completely get that. And if an activity doesn't bring you joy anymore, sorry,
Then
you
find
should
something
cut
that
it.
does. Yeah.
Yeah,
You gotta
go
put your
ahead and
mask
cut.
on first. You just have to. You can't
Yeah,
give what you don't have. You just can't. And, I learned that lesson, very loudly. There'll be another talk, with my dad. I went through a journey too where I had to let myself be first and stop trying to do everything myself. And I got a very hard knock that I had to wake up
yes,
from. Yeah, I had to
yes,
get that. There was a lot of healing for me through this journey because I got to heal some stuff too. And that's what happens when we go through these challenging parts of our journey. We're
yes.
growing and healing. That's what we're doing. We
But
have to
I
take care of ourselves.
find it, and I was talking with a friend last night. I told her I think I need new friends because my friends are stuck with their problems. And it's not that I don't love them, I love them very much, but I need people that bring the change, that are willing to accept the change, and that are willing to just move forward. And she mentioned something, you're either breaking down or breaking through.
Yes. It's really interesting when you said that is as you start to really awaken and move into your purpose and open up, just kind of like when you're trying to break an addiction, you can't be around it all the time. What are the chances are you're going to break through if you keep immersing yourself in the same energy?
Yeah, you're
And
gonna
so
fall in the same.
you're going
Yeah.
to fall into it. It's going to be hard to get out. It's like quicksand. And so I don't have one single friend that I had in 2011. Not one. I don't have one single friend. I have acquaintances, but I have one friend that I stay in contact with every now and then, every few years, but I don't have one friend. I have a lot of new friends, and I have some really good friends now. But they're not a lot of friendships. What they're really about is just commiserating. Just
Yes.
if you ever listen to old people talk about a lot of old people go out to lunch and all they're talking about is their health
Yes.
and their doctor's appointments and all that. That's
Yeah.
commiserating
They
instead
either
of
talk about that or,
or
oh,
gossip
remember
or
when
gossip.
we were 12 and we were playing? Yeah, like a lot of the conversations are not even positive. And even just
Yeah,
talking about the past every time you go out.
yeah. Or gossip, talking about somebody else.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm not interested in that anymore. It doesn't interest me anymore. What interests me is meeting with people that actually are joyful and fun and like doing new things. I like doing new things. I like going to new places. I have sports, I have tennis. I love playing tennis. But even those ladies, I go for the fun of it and I go for the joy of it. But even those ladies are so focused on dis-ease too. That's real important that we stay in community. And that's what I've not been so good about. I'm starting to get better at it now because I've been literally on my own single for going on 44 years. When I moved in with my dad, it was quite a shock. And so I'm learning how to let people in and be in community again. I've always been a loner. I was a loner when I was a kid. Going back to the community thing, that and movement are the two biggest things in your life to keep you young. To have a YouTube channel, and one of the playlist is tennis life lessons. And every time, that's one thing I did do when I lived with my dad is almost every morning while he was still sleeping, I would get up and go play tennis. And because the tennis center was right down the street from me is the park I grew up in, which is pretty wild. But I would start doing these tennis life lessons after I would leave the court. I go, okay, what did I learn today? What is relevant to life? And so one of the interviews is he's 97 now, still playing tennis. I interviewed Calvin, and I'm like, what's the tennis life lesson? And he says, if you want to keep moving, keep moving. Like, yeah, you're a good example of that. So movement and unity, communion, those are for when it comes to, your twilight years, then, that you got to have that or you're not going to be happy. My grandmother wasn't happy when she moved in and didn't have any of that. She was alone most of the time because she moved in with my sister and she worked. And she got to go to church if somebody was there to take her. And, she lived 30 minutes away from me on a good day. I worked. I didn't get to spend a lot of time with her. Now I can work from anywhere. So that's the beauty of what I do too. So I can go and stay with my granddaughter, or I can go and stay with one of my kids, or I can go travel. I can go, I used to do traveling workshops. I can do that ended with COVID, but I can do that. And I would go and stay a month in different places. It's a beautiful thing.
Where can people find out more about yourself, the work you do, all the healing?
Foodrevelation.com. That's the website. You can book a 15-minute, a no-charge exploratory there. And in that 15 minutes, if you're looking to get to the root of disease, we will do it. It will show up and the roadmap will show up too. If you just want to talk to me, you just want to know me better, then you can book a 15-minute exploratory. I'm on all, I have to be on all the social channels. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, and I do there. I have a newsletter that you can sign up for. I call Revelations and Recipes. It speaks for itself. I started as a chef, by the way. So one of the perks of having sessions with me is with your food charts, you get recipes too. And they're delicious. Okay. Nobody wants to suffer on the road to health. I get that. And so the taste buds, they don't care if it's healthy or not. They just care if it tastes good. So it's easier to get through things if it tastes good. I help you with that.
And also, you can find Gail and I on Oh Yes, I Did It.
Yeah, our new book.
I don't even know the name of the book.
It's Oh Yes, I Did.
Oh Yes, I Did. Yes. So go grab the book. We're both there. We have a chapter each.
Share out the Amazon link. There's an Amazon link.
Yeah. Everything. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're so welcome. It was fun. I love you.
Hey, just for you to know, the content presented in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any affiliated organizations or sponsors. If you need additional advice, please contact the right partner for you.